All right.
Okay, let's see. See if that works.
Okay, we are live. Welcome to an impromptu Ask Me Anything here on a beautiful, cool Saturday evening in Southeast Georgia. I see I've got a couple of comments. Thanks for sticking with me here. Thanks for the comments. I really do appreciate it. Yeah. Let's see. Have I considered connecting solar directly to the battery? Yes, I have. For connecting solar to the battery, I'd have to have some sort of charge controller that would convert the output directly to the nominal 48 volt or 51.4 volts, whatever the portable power station actually requires. I do know that my golf cart charger that I was experimenting with has a higher top charge level than what the Pecron batteries are designed to handle. But since it's not my primary means of charging, it's only an emergency charging thing. Pretty much as soon as the power station's full, you can just unplug those and you'll be fine. It's not going to go above what the batteries can take if you unplug it when you see that it's completely fully charged. Yeah, and I'm really hoping that Pecron can make the situation not only with my unit but with other units. I really think that there's some sort of internal fault in the portable power station itself, in the inverter board design. Bigger inverters, like I've had on ships and stuff like that, for sensitive electronics that are battery backed up, that still require some form of AC output. On those, we had circuit breakers that would trip if there was any issue with connections to the appliances that were being run by the inverters. So those circuit breakers would trip. You could troubleshoot and reset your circuit breakers. And there is a circuit breaker, if you look at the E3600 on the right or left side as you're actually looking at the unit. It's the same side right where your network cable connects, and there is a push button kind of reset there. I've never had it trip, so I'm not exactly sure what that's used for. And it may be some sort of output trip or whatever, but it's never tripped on either unit. The first unit they repaired, the repair came back and it was fully functional. They updated the BMS board as well, so they replaced the inverter board and they replaced the BMS board. And hopefully they'll send me a new unit to commission instead of trying to repair this one. I'm open to having it repaired, because I think the only issue is probably the board. But who says that they don't take a board out of an old one and put it into another machine instead of having a brand new board? And I don't exactly know how it's designed because I haven't taken mine apart yet because it's still under warranty. I'd love to do a teardown on it and actually see what components are user serviceable after the warranty expires, because it would be really great if it was simple architecture that you could repair yourself with off-the-shelf components. It's too bad that Radio Shack went out of business years ago for selling actual radio components and resistors and diodes and capacitors and things of the such. Let's see, directly charging from the battery from solar, it'd be necessary to manually disconnect each time of the day when they are full. Well, it depends. If you have, we'll just call the charging system 48 volts, because that's what they kind of label the batteries as, but a nominal 48 volt charging system, if you set it for the battery architecture that you have, so the lithium iron phosphate batteries, it should automatically stop charging when the batteries get to a certain level. Now, what I don't know is how it interacts with the BMS, but I'm not thinking that that would be an issue, because I had one of my power stations with solar connected to it only, charging both power stations through that DC bonding cable I made. So only one technically two bonded charge controllers were actually charging at the time. So I was taking in about 1800 watts and it was simultaneously charging both power stations. Now, one power station would lag slightly behind the other as far as voltage is concerned, and that's entirely normal because it's going to power is going to flow from high voltage to low voltage. So it actually does work. And even with the inverter board that's down in the power station now, if I had to, I could still use that to charge and output 12 volts and effectively have it as another expansion battery. So I reconfigured my unit today. I haven't made a video on it, but I took all 4 batteries and put them back with the main unit. And I've got a fan running on it now because I want to just keep it not full cycling, but cycling every once in a while just to draw it down overnight and let it recharge, kind of as an endurance test, which I know it's going to pass because I did it for 6 months living in my RV. But it's very interesting to see how that system works for the long term. You know, they say that these systems have a lifespan of about 10 years, and that's probably true on the batteries. I'm not so sure on the inverters. I do think that you can take their expansion batteries and technically even the main unit, because without the inverter, it's basically just another expansion battery with greater solar charging input on it. But you can take those and supply that 48 volt power directly to another inverter, which one of the subscribers commented on the channel earlier today in one of the videos that that's a possibility, that you can actually take and output that 48 volt battery pack to an inverter. I've been looking into some EG4 inverters, some Solarc inverters, things of that such. But the thing that scares me about those is some of those have like 200 amp battery connections on them, which means if I had like a 12,000 watt unit, it is going to pull way too much power from those batteries. So that's a concern. If I got a smaller unit, maybe like a 6,000 watt, probably not as big of a deal. But I'm really interested in getting one of those units. They do have a 15, SolarArc has a 15 kilowatt hour or 15 kilowatt hybrid inverter charger that's supposedly hardened for EMP, which I'm not entirely sure how they do that. I know on military vessels, the way they do EMP hardening is not the same that they would do in the private sector, because you're still going to have your transmission lines back and forth to your solar panels. You're going to have the wiring in your house, and all of that stuff's going to be connected to that inverter. So I'm not entirely sure how you would deal with an EMP in one of those units, but it is definitely interesting to kind of think about that. I was doing some research though, had a conversation with Grok the other day, and I was discussing with the AI chat at what level geomagnetic storm we needed to have to where it was necessary for me to disconnect my power stations from the solar panels and basically just disconnect, unplug, turn off everything until the CME passes. So it said somewhere around an X10 flare that had a fast moving CME. That would be the level that you'd want to protect your off-grid power stations, as well as disconnect your house from the grid. It's an interesting topic. I don't know if any of you guys are really kind of into the whole space weather thing, but I've been into it for a few years now. Let's see next. And my kids are here this weekend, so we've had a great Thanksgiving. Got some noise going off in the background, but that's fine. We're live and we're unfiltered, so we're doing it. But yeah, looking at space weather, not only does space weather present a threat to the power grid itself, it also presents a threat to your portable power stations. And although it's a much lesser threat, it may take a much larger event to take those power stations offline. If everything's connected, plugged in, turned on, connected to the solar arrays, it's more likely to have problems than it is if everything's disconnected and powered off. And that's one of the things, maybe going with one of the dedicated type inverter charger setups, hybrid inverter setups, where you can draw grid power and output directly to your house as well as into the batteries at the same time. I like that technology. I really like what EcoFlow has in their Delta Pro Ultra X, and I'd really like to get one, but when you start comparing apples to apples, you're going to come out slightly better financially if you go with a dedicated grid system that's off grid. So if you went with like an EG4 charge inverter or something like that, or a solar arc with extra storage batteries, the solar's about the same for those systems. They usually take somewhere around 10 to 12,000 watts from solar. It really kind of depends on the system here. Let's see. I'm going to pull up this, turn this off. And I don't have my dual monitor set up. I actually have my other monitors connected to my other computer, so sharing my screen is not going to happen tonight. But let's go back to Signature Solar, because that's where I bought my solar panels from. And I got a really good deal on solar panels from them. Not sponsored, just letting you guys know. I got 400 watt bifacial panels for like $100 a panel. You can't get 400 watt panels on Amazon, and if you can, it is nowhere near $100 a panel. So let's see, EG4 electronics. I got a whole bunch of things there. Let's see. Let's go to not solar kits. Let's see, EV charging. No. And I went to solar kits before because they have some prepackaged kits, and I already have a bunch of solar panels, so I'd probably just get the exact same solar panels that I have now. I wouldn't modify or get different brands of panels unless they were all going to a different inverter. You don't want to usually mix panels and voltages. You can, but results and mileage can vary. I have a friend of mine that's living off grid that learned that the hard way, plugging 100 watt panels and 200 watt panels that are different brands, different voltages, different amperages. And he realized he let the famous magic blue smoke out of his system. There we go. Inverters. Let's see. Off-grid inverters. I had grid tie at my other house. Like, I paid an insane amount of money to get grid tie in the house. And the power company for grid tied solar only paid 3 cents a kilowatt hour and charged roughly 13 cents a kilowatt hour. So my neighbors were getting basically free electricity during the day from the excess power generated from the solar, and there was absolutely no return on investment. So I don't recommend grid-tied systems that don't have any sort of battery backup, especially if you're trying to sell your power back to the grid. You're never going to come out ahead doing that. You're just going to wear your inverter and your appliances out. And even on that system, the house had two inverters. It had a 5 kilowatt inverter and it had a 10 kilowatt inverter. And we didn't even realize it until we started seeing our power bill creep up that the big 10 kW inverter that has like a 15-year warranty on it, it fried. And nobody ever told us. The company that sold us the system out of Tampa, Florida, went out of business. And we had to go through another vendor to get it replaced under the manufacturer's warranty because the company that installed it went out of business. So a bit of the solar and a bit of the portable power stations and stuff, they are kind of scamish. Not that it is a scam, because they do work, some to a greater extent than others. And like I said, I've only had experience with the Pecron E3600 LFP. I have no experience with any other portable power stations. I'd like to get experience with other ones, and as soon as I can get it in the budget, I'll probably pick up a smaller EcoFlow unit to test with, and eventually work towards getting some of these permanent off-grid style inverters. So let's see, go back to this website here. They're expensive. EG4 6000 XP off-grid inverter sitting around $1,600 on their site on sale. They have a 3 kilowatt off-grid inverter. And a weird and kind of neat thing in these is they're stackable. So you can have multiple inverters. Like this one here is on sale for $700. It's an EG4 3 kilowatt off-grid inverter that has 5,000 watts of solar input. And that's kind of cool. I mean, that would be great for like a tiny cabin. But when you look at the max charging current on it, it's 80 amps. So just imagine trying to put 80 amps into your little Pecron batteries. It's probably not going to work out that well. Let's see. Does this allow for paralleling units? Or is it just the 3,000 watt output? Because that's a lot. So let's see. Versatile application, smart battery, upgraded design. That's a all-in-one inverter. I mean, let's see. Additional information should say that you can stack them, but I don't actually see it on there. So go back to off-grid inverters. I do know, like, they got 12K off-grid split phase inverters, so it's two 6,000 inverters for like $3,200. And maybe that's the way to go, is to have the duplication, not go one big inverter, maybe have two smaller inverters. And yeah, this allows you to parallel up to 16 of these EG4 6000 XPs to get a staggering 96 kilowatts of output power. That is bonkers. Let's see. Maybe I'll figure out how to share my screen here. Let me close some of this out here. Minimize this. We'll come back here. Let's see. Add a scene. Checking the comments. No new comments. All right, let's see. Add. Should be able to click that and add a source. Oh, I have to add the source over here. That's right. Let's see. Video capture device, sources. And no. Oh, enter the name of the scene. Let's cancel that. That's why. Because my microphone's like right in the way of where that popped up. So pull that up. Display capture. Main monitor. Let's see. Add existing main monitor. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's do it this way. And then go over here. Let's add a scene. So sources, main monitor, split screen. let's kill all of these others. And then what? Oh, there we go. I can just do the main monitor that way, but that kind of defeats the entire purpose, doesn't it? So we'll do it this way. And then we will fade. Okay, so now you see what I see. All right, so that's the split screen, and then we're going to bring up the website that I was on. Okay, see if this works, because I know my live stream is lagging behind on my phone. There we are. Okay, I can see what I see on there. So my general thinking is changing my concept for off-grid to maybe possibly having one of these type of systems. Not maybe this exact one, but looking around and finding something similar that's stackable like this, because this way, if I have an inverter fail, it's not the end. Because right now I can't even run my well. But yeah, this is definitely, let's see, additional information, related products. Yeah, let's download the spec sheet and see what it says. So 5-year warranty, remote adjustments. See, that's one of the things that I'm not necessarily a fan of, is having somebody else being able to get into my system. I mean, of course, it's got to be connected to the internet. That was one of the reasons I didn't get a Tesla Powerwall when they first came out. All right, so let's see. Maximum utilized solar power, 8,000 watts. So each one can do up to that amount. It says maximum solar input, 10,000 watts. That's going to be a big solar array. So it has 2 MPPTs and 1 input per MPPT. So I guess they're 4,000 each. I guess they're recommending over paneling to 10,000 watts. So 100 to 480 volts DC, and having about 320 volts DC is the desired thing. I've got to do a bit more research on this. So looking at the battery voltage range for the lithium, it does 46.4 to 60 volts. And lead acid, which we're not even going to deal with because those things don't last very many cycles. Yeah, this is definitely interesting. 99% efficiency on the MPPT, and battery charging is 93%, battery discharging 93%. So that's actually slightly better than the E3600 as far as, you know, you put, let's say, 1,000 watts in and you get 930 watts out. But in this case, let's see, it would be, you'd put 1,000 watts in, you'd get 930 watts, and then you get 93% of the 930 coming back out. And then it's got your standby power. So, and it also says that it has the ability to take in AC at 37.5 amps. So AC bypass, grid, or generator, 50 amps. So if I had 2 of these units, I'd have 100 amps that I could draw at one time. So that's quite a bit of power. It says max AC input power is 9,000 watts. So it requires line 1, line 2, and neutral for the 240 volt connection. And it outputs 120, 240. And is adjustable. So max continuous output current is 25 amps. And nominal power output 6,000 watts. So if you had two of these parallel together, that'd be 50 amps, and that is about what a normal big large 12 kW generator would do. But yeah, that's a huge amount of solar you could take in on that unit. So let's see. So go back here. There we go. That's still not. Did I kill my video capture? Oh, I'm still down there in the corner. Cool. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, by all means, definitely do the same type of testing on another power station. Let everybody know. So yeah, MDA fishing. My goal with this, it wasn't really to do anything other than just kind of share my experience with what these portable power stations are capable of doing. And I was going into it blind. Like, I did research when these were kind of just new to me, and I kind of recently discovered them. And the main purpose of the original unit was to buy it for an emergency backup. But I got to thinking, I was already invested because I bought the E3600 with 4 expansion batteries, and that was going to be my emergency backup for like hurricanes. And I could charge up my little inverter generator at 30 amps. And I'm like, well, that's perfect. And then I ended up getting my second one and running my house with it. But that first unit I had, I successfully ran the entire house for 43 days with 0 issues. And then I unplugged it, and then it died. And it's just kind of crazy. Let's see, live cam. Why does that say live cam there? Did I move something around? That's weird, because I see my live cam. It's not letting me go back to... Not letting me go back to the big screen. But anyway, so I'm in the corner of the screen. So we will go back to this. Let's get out of there. So interesting today. I shared the video of my experience. Just one of my latest videos. Let's see, manage post. I put this on here on the Pecron Official Club's Facebook page, and they've yet to approve it. So that's interesting. We'll see. They'll probably approve it. I think they will. They let stuff like this go on. Hopefully they're open to not necessarily criticism, but comments and ways to improve, because I think that it's a great idea. It's a great price. However, I also have a saying that many of you may have heard of. It is a buy once and cry once. Let's see. Let's go back to off-grid inverters. Let's see. Actually, go back one more. See, other, no. Shop by product. Homesteading. Everything you need to homestead. And of course, they promote that 6 kW inverter right there. So two of those would set you back about $3,200, which is comparable to the EcoFlow. So let's see. EcoFlow. Let's go to their website. And of course, it's going to bring this up. Delta Pro Series. There we go, the X. So let's look at side-by-side comparisons here. So we have the Delta Pro Ultra X, one inverter and two batteries for $8,000. That's basically just getting it, plugging it into your house and rolling with it, without their smart home panel, which I don't know if the smart home panel is actually necessary. I think it's more of a luxury to have that. But if you go with this setup, it allows you to add multiple of these units. And the one thing that I don't know about my house, and I mean, I do have a 200 amp service, and clearly this is not going to put out 200 amps. There's a reason it's 200 amps, but then they have this here. So I don't know what the difference is between the Smart Gateway 200 amp and the Smart Home Panel 2. I've got to figure that out because I'm not entirely sure what the difference is. But just comparing apples and apples, this right here is a 12,000 watt inverter with 12 kilowatts of storage. So if we go here and let's kind of just, solar's not a factor. We're not going to factor in solar because it's going to be the same for both. So let's throw two of these in the cart. And then, all right, that's in the cart. So now we're at $3,000, a little over $3,000. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, and then let's go to batteries. Let's see, what kind of batteries do we have? Let's go to EG4 and see their battery packs. Trying to find one that's not just not batteries. Let's see, all products, batteries. I like the server rack batteries. I think those are decently priced. So we got this right here. So this is a server rack battery, and it is 100 amp hours. And this is 200 amp hours. Oh, that's 24 volt. Okay. So this is the LL. Wonder if that stands for long life. There's a price difference. We'll go with these. Let's see the specs on this. So 7,000 deep cycles to 80% depth of discharge, over 15-year lifespan, parallel up to 64 batteries. So what is the capacity? I mean, it's kind of weird because it's rated an amp hour capacity, so I'm not entirely sure what that would be to watts. Oh, there we go. All right, 5.12 kilowatt hours. Okay, so we know that the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra X has a 12,000 watt inverter, and it has 12 kilowatts of storage. This is not quite 12, but we'll just throw this together and kind of see if we're in the same realm. Now, this doesn't include, obviously, the cables and everything to connect everything together. Let's see, firmware update cable. Read write cable. Okay. So, it also doesn't include racking. But just say you stack these on top of each other, because I've seen people that throw these on a shelf. So for roughly 12,000 watts and 12 kilowatts, so we're at 10 with the two batteries, and the total price is sitting here around 6,000 compared to 8,000. So for that price right there on EcoFlow's website, we could go back here and we could add a third battery, and now we've got 15 kilowatt hours of storage for 7,300. It's almost apples to apples when you do the comparison. But the difference is here, we have the two inverters. So if one dies, you still have two. And remember, when you go in here and you look at the specs, it says, I think it's, what is the input? So output, and then the capacity is 12 to an ungodly amount of 180 kilowatt hours. So, and this cost $3,200 to install. That's a bit pricey. I mean, you could probably install it yourself cheaper or for free, but you've still got to follow the National Electric Code. So let's see, specs. So I don't get anything wrong here. AC output's 12,000 watts, 120 or 240 volt, 60 hertz, and you could get up to 36 kilowatts in 3 parallel units. And maximum capacity is 184 kilowatt hours. So that's the 6144 batteries times 30. So 30 batteries. That's a big system. It's got a 5-year warranty on the battery. And let's see. Rated AC output is only 50 amps. So same as the other unit, 25, that's 50 amps. Total PV input. So each one of these power stations takes in, so for the EcoFlow, we're looking at 10 kilowatts and 2 ports, so 5,000 watts each going into the unit. So let's compare that to this EG4 electronics. Really wish you'd let me, maybe I can click there and it'll bring me to it. Okay. So looking at the specs on this, maximum PV input, 10,000 watts. So that's about the same. Now, it does say that you actually get less out of it, but you can put 10,000 watts into this unit right here. So it also supports your load, your grid, and your generator. So it has inputs for all of that. That's cool. And the fact that you can parallel these units together, similar to EcoFlow, but it's really easy to add capacity. If you were to install one of these and go, you know what, I really need more than 12,000 watts. I need 18,000. You just grab a third unit and put it in. But I'm not sure if they all, I was reading somewhere that they're supposed to share the batteries. I think that's because it doesn't balance, like the same issue I was having with my Pecron. So let's go back, see if we have any questions on a live stream. Will there be a significant difference from other brands if they will be split phase concept other than component performance? I don't think so. At the end of the day, the end user is going to see their lights on. There's going to be nuances to everything that's going on with those units. If you have EcoFlow, for instance, it's kind of plug and play and user friendly. So once you have the main unit, it's not too difficult to just start buying batteries and stacking batteries to add capacity. It's also not that difficult, like once you would have that smart home panel installed. But what happens if you get that 12 kilowatt inverter and it goes out, like the Pecaron did? You're dead in the water. You have no power in your house. So 2 is 1, 1 is none. And I just figured that out recently where 2 is 1 because 1 went down. Now I have 2. 1 is a paperweight right now, and the other's actually being used to heat and ventilate my garage just to burn a load. But anyway, let's see. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Comments? Suggestions? I try to do these live streams from time to time. Most of them are just spur of the moment, like I'm going to go live because I have some free time. Glad the government shutdown's over. Missed 3 pay periods. That was exciting. That's why I started trying to grow the channel, and man, it's taken off pretty good. I'd initially joked around with my coworker and said I was going to set a goal of, let's see, that must be an old update, so let's refresh. Yeah, it's an old one. Oh, wow, we're up to 1,055. Yeah, yesterday I just crossed 1,000, and I'm just like floored. I really hate if you guys don't have YouTube Premium and you have to watch the ads. I got YouTube Premium because the mid-roll ads were so bad. I just couldn't do it anymore. But yeah, the channel is growing. And I tell you right now that YouTube doesn't pay as much as Uber does as a second job. Doesn't pay anything at the moment. Apparently, to get paid out on this channel, you've got to get at least $100 basically banked up before they'll pay you. And it took forever to get to 1,000 subscribers. It seems since I started my channel like 2012. But anyway, let's go back here. Do we have any other questions? Let's see. Came in a little late. What systems are you looking at for a replacement? Yeah, so I want to get my E3600 LFP repaired. I want to get that either repaired or replaced. And I do want to use that as kind of a backup, but I'm still going to have to search for some sort of better permanent solution for the house. Whereas something like this right here, this EG4 6000 XP, if I went with 2 of these, I'd have 12 kilowatts, which is enough to run my house during normal consumption. But even at 12 kilowatts, you're not going to run your water heater, your well pump, your stove, and your air conditioner at the same time. There's just limits to what you can run. But if you had something like a really small off-grid cabin, this right here, and maybe 20 kilowatts of storage, you'd be golden. You got 10,000 watts of solar, and that's the other consideration to think of is when you have solar and you have batteries, are you going to be able to recharge your batteries daily? Because that's what the E3600 is actually kind of set up for, is to be able to recharge a full stack. And this is their site here. I did call them. So if you go here and you click contact us, I called that number and they said, hey, we're going to email you. No email. I haven't gotten an email yet. But that was yesterday. That was Black Friday. And that would have been Saturday evening in China. So it's Sunday in China. So if I do get a message, it's either going to come early in the morning, Monday morning for me, which would be Monday afternoon for them, because they're basically a day and a day ahead, day plus 12 hours ahead of me. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. So I haven't decided on an actual system for permanent replacement. I do want to get the E3600 fixed though, or replaced. And then for long term, I guess you guys are going to have to subscribe to figure out what I'm going to do. But the ultimate goal here is to have my house off grid in case of a grid down situation. And if you see, can I make my split screen? You know, we're going to just do it this way. Take this. And why would you be over the top like that? That's what we'll do. We'll just take that. We'll put it outside the frame. And then we'll... There we go. Okay. I figured out a workaround. If you look over here, and my camera will follow me, or it should. Hey, camera, over here. Let's see. Make sure my little... There we go. All right, follow me, camera. Come over here. Go back to that camera setting, and I'm going to have to yell now because I'm away from the mic. Let's do a close-up. Oh, does that work? And we'll do this. There we go. All right. And then we will turn off normal tracking. And then, there we go. Get this lined up here. All right. So I've got you guys tuned in and zoomed in on my Yaesu FT450D. They do not make those anymore. You might be able to find a used one on eBay or something like that. But man, this has been... I've gotten more use and more enjoyment out of this radio than I did my ICOM 7000. I just got to say that. My ICOM 7000 was cool because I used it as a mobile rig in my car for a while. But just time and everything has torn the mic cable up on it. And like a replacement mic cable for that radio is like over $100 because you got to buy a whole new mic. I was thinking about using and seeing if I could figure out the pin outs on it and just making one out of some network cable that might work. But over here, I have, this is my HF rig. My VHF rig is over here. These two things are power supplies. Now, both of these radios right here will actually run on DC, so 12 volts DC. So I wouldn't need these power converters to supply 12 volt power. I could hook these directly to a car battery, or I've tested it. I just never made a video of it, where I hooked it up to one of the Pecaron expansion batteries, because it allows to have 30 amps out, and that actually worked pretty well. I'm on digital modes right now, so I don't have, it doesn't draw a lot of power when it's running digital modes. See, I'll go over to this other computer here, which you can't see the screen, and I will do ask for a signal report. And 6 amps. 6 amps. So at 20 watts, I'm pulling 6 amps. So pretty easy there. And you can hear the... If you're not in the ham radio, you really need to get in the ham radio for off-grid stuff. All right, let's get this back here. Normal tracking. Widescreen. All right, and then we're back. So let's turn that noisemaker off. So yeah, I really do like the ability to communicate. I do need to do another video on my Starlink setup. I really think that's valuable. I made a video right when I first did it, but you can take one of the Starlink antennas, the Gen 3. I have a Gen 3 flat dish, and my Gen 2 dish is actually what we're communicating on right now and live streaming. But my Gen 3 flat dish is actually underneath my soft topper on my truck. And when I'm driving to and from work, there's an area that's about 6-7 miles where there's no cell phone signal. And I can use my phone, connect it to Wi-Fi to do Wi-Fi calling and even video calling using that Starlink antenna. And I'm on the low bandwidth plan. So I'm paying $5 a month just to keep the thing active. And I think that's locked in for a year, and then maybe at the end of the year, I may have to activate the unit or deactivate the unit. I'm not entirely sure what Starlink's plan is for that, but it is a great communication option. And then I got to thinking, it would be kind of cool if I took my DMR radio. This is not a DMR radio, but if I took my DMR radio and I put one of the little DMR transceivers that hooks to the internet in my truck, so my DMR hotspot, and then I could have DMR hotspot anywhere I go, as long as my truck is on and my Starlink's on, and I've got power to my little hotspot. The inverter in my truck runs the Starlink just fine. And it'll run that little DMR hotspot just fine. I mean, I guess I could get into Meshtastic here at some point and throw a Meshtastic node in there as well. But having the ability to not only be able to use your cell phone in areas that don't have cell coverage without having a cell phone that goes direct to satellite. Because right now, I think T-Mobile has a thing where you can text to satellite, but they kind of opened it up to other phones, and I tried to apply for Verizon's test of it, but I didn't get in. But if you have a Starlink, you can use it under a cover, a canvas cover, and they don't advertise that. So that's something new I haven't seen anybody else discover yet. So I think I may need to do a more in-depth video on that and kind of see if that video takes off. So anyway, any safe rounds, alibis, final questions? Fixing to wrap up this Ask Me Anything Part 2. At some point here, I want to go in and do another presentation on some more preparedness stuff other than talking about portable power stations, because that's the direction the channel is going to continue to go. It's called Grid Down Preparedness, because we're going to talk about all the stuff that you folks need, and we're going to discuss, of course, in the comment section, that you guys need to be prepared. So if that's something you guys are interested in, make sure you like and follow and subscribe. Want to quickly thank a channel member, my one and very first channel member, who's not even in the United States, Mendaly, and her call sign in Luxembourg is LX2VY. So thank you so much for your generous support. And I think we're going to call it a night. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the live stream. This will be live. I may go in and trim the beginning part of it off because I didn't have audio. So once it uploads, I'll go through and edit that very beginning part off. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will talk to you